I heard the guy say it's the biggest game in the post-Tom Brady era. And that was from a Boston perspective. Look, the division hasn't even been decided yet at this point. But do you understand that narrative, and what's your reaction to it? Because your team will hear that this week as well, too, I'm sure.
Yeah, I understand, where people are coming from on that. And, I think that the biggest game for us is this coming week, quite honestly. That's where we're at in our season. And this is a good football team coming in here in the Atlanta Falcons. And they've got a quarterback that's seen a lot of ball over the years, and certainly a good football team. So,
all right, thank you, Sean.
Yeah, sure, Adam.
Hey, Sean, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. I guess I'll kind of start with the obvious here. What did you see from Isaiah McKenzie yesterday that impressed you the most, really?
Yeah, he makes those plays in practice, but I think, just catching the football, the fundamental part of it, he brings energy all the time to our football team, and he gets separation, and but some of those catches were really, really good catches, and really good balls by Josh too, in terms of where he placed them, and to where only Isaiah could get them. So I thought the execution was at a high level.
And, kind of along the lines of what you were just asked, when you start hearing these scenarios about the magnitude of this game and, that clinching is in play, do you have to work maybe a little extra hard as a team to stay focused on this week, being that there's so much being talked about?
Well, I mean, if that's something that tends to, I think self-awareness is important. So if that's something that tends to cause someone to lose their focus, then yes, 100%. This is part of the job where there's going to be noise, whether it's really positive or really negative, and you got to learn to ignore it and do your job at a high level. And that'll be part of our focus this week.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, look, I know players make the plays on the field, and that's talked about. But what can you say about what Brian Daboll and his performance was yesterday? 0 punts against a Bill Belichick defense had never been done before. What can you say about his job?
Yeah, I thought he did a phenomenal job. Called a really good game. Offense executed at a high level, and I thought the offensive staff collectively did a great job.
Is there any COVID updates that you could provide for us? Any surprises?
Just one update. Cam Lewis is now on the COVID list as of today. That's it.
Thanks
as far as I know. So, yeah.
Thanks, Coach.
Sure.
Coach Mookie Hawkins, Buffalo Sports 1080. How you doing today?
Good, Mookie. How are you?
I'm good, Coach. I'm good. Now or never approach on 4th down. Was that, part of the game plan in reference to, keeping your team physical against New England? And care to talk about how well Deion played? Last time we saw him, he was pancaking Matt Judon somewhere. So care to talk about those two instances, Coach?
The first one is the 4th downs. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I thought our offense did a really good job moving the football and executing all the way down the field, and we had some opportunities where we wanted to go for it on 4th down, and then they executed well. I mean, those are important situations for us to execute in, and really happy to see the level of play in those situations in particular. Deion's play, I thought, coming off of COVID was good to see. It's a step in the right direction to getting him back, and this week will be another step, and continuing for him to take his play to another level each and every week for us as we go here.
Yes, sir. And how were you able to dictate tempo or playing aggressive and forcing New England to play keep up? And how does that one not done attitude will keep these guys playing with a chip on the shoulder the remainder of the season?
Again, I just think it's one game. I think it's situationally specific, and I thought our guys executed. So real proud of them for that.
Good luck this week, Coach. Good job.
All right, thanks, Ricky. Appreciate it.
Hey, Sean, it's Jay with Buffalo News. I apologize. I jumped on a minute late. Is there any update you can give us on Star? I know he was out with a personal issue. So I know I'm not asking specifics, but just in general, do you know if he's back with the team? Do you expect to have him back with the team this week? Anything like that?
Yeah, I don't have anything specifically at this point, Jay. So I'll let you know the next time I come around here if I have something more for you.
Okay. In regards to yesterday, obviously the situation with Ike seemed to be, probably season ending. You had a few other guys go out of the game. Seemed like they all were able to come back in. Do you know of any lingering issues with injuries from the game for any of those guys?
I don't. Just the Ike situation, as you mentioned, and hard to see any player go down. Ike's put so much into this, and he's so well liked by our team and his teammates. I just feel for him. My heart goes out to him and his family.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Sean. Happy New Year.
Yeah, you too.
Good afternoon, Sean. Ryan Bates, I don't have the actual stat in front of me, but I'm pretty sure he's played either in preseason or regular season, every position for you guys since he's been here. And then, in the game on Sunday, you start him on the right side, have to shift him to the left side. I mean, what can you say about the job that he does, the way that he approaches his craft and his ability to kind of do all of those things and how he played on Sunday?
Yeah, he's one of the first ones in the building, Matt, every day. I think he's got great process, great habits, great routine, and that sets him up for success. And it's great to see when a player or a person puts so much time into it and continues to work at it, remain patient or as patient as possible, and then sees the fruits of their labor come to fruition, right, in terms of what he was able to do yesterday.
And I'm just curious, obviously you guys have been shuffling the deck all season long on the line. Is part of the reason he didn't get in until this week because of his ability to play center?
There's various reasons. I'm not going to get into why he hasn't played, but various reasons. Just super proud of the way he's persevered and super proud of his attitude. And he's a team first guy, and I got a lot of respect for that.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Hey, Sean, AJ Feldman here at the CBS station in Rochester. Isaiah McKenzie is a big personality, kind of wears his heart on his sleeve. We saw him get a little down before that Saints game when he was inactive. How have you seen him react to the success that he had yesterday, and how do you expect him to, build on that going forward here in the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's natural that he was disappointed, and really loved the way he handled it going forward and controlling the pieces he could control, and knowing that his opportunity would come, and it came, and he did a great job, as I mentioned after the game, the way he stepped up. And I expect more of that in the future, and more of that from our team as we continue to go here.
All right, thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Hi, Sean. I just want to follow up on the offensive line part of this. Ryan Bates, and he hasn't played a lot, but when he has played, he's played well. Did he show you enough that maybe you end up sticking with him? When you get your guys back to full strength, the two guys that are on the COVID list anyway. I don't anticipate you getting Ike back anytime soon. And also too, what was the exact plan with Dion going into the game, Dion Dawkins? Because it didn't look like he was going to play unless it was an emergency situation, which turned out to be.
Yeah, first on Bates, again, we'll see where this week takes us with who's available, who's not, and what really the offensive coaches feel is the best lineup for us, and we'll see where things are in terms of availability as well. So, and then with Dion, yeah, I mean, we came into the game just thinking, he'd be an emergency backup for us right there, and lo and behold, when Ike unfortunately went down, Dion had to step in and execute, which was good to see.
Thank you.
Sure.
Afternoon, Sean.
How you doing?
Good.
With the showing of Bills fans at the airport last night and knowing how much this team means to them, how much of an advantage is it to finish off the regular season at home?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's not something we take for granted. I'll tell you that. We love playing at home, love playing in front of our fans. We get greeted at the airport, probably unlike any team I've ever been around. It's pretty special to see that outpouring of support and love and appreciation for the way the players played yesterday. And so really appreciate that. And we look forward to playing at home this weekend. Just taking it one at a time, and it's always special for us to play here in Buffalo.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, good to see you. I was curious about following up on one of your answers last night. You had mentioned how this is a young team, young leadership group, and how it's so hard to follow up a season like y'all had last year. And I know that's something we talked about so much during training camp ahead of the season, but hadn't heard in a while. So I was just curious how you've seen that show up now that we're 16 weeks into the season.
Yeah, leadership is some of it I think is innate, and that thread of DNA is in someone, but the other side of it is I believe it's developed, and being in a leadership role for some people is new, and you get better at it hopefully with experience and age and everything. And so I just feel like overall our leadership group is continued to grow just like I do, quite honestly, and we do as a team. And I think that's an important part of developing players, is developing the leadership of the team as well. And I've been very impressed over the last few weeks by the way those guys have led.
And to follow up kind of specifically with the idea of coming off of last season, following that up, how have you seen that leadership group respond in that sense?
Well, it's a different leadership group this year in terms of the captains than last season. It's changed a little bit. And so has the dynamics of the team, right? And just in terms of this year's team being different than last year's team different than the year before. So the leadership challenges year to year, there's some that are similar, but there's a lot of challenges that are different with this season than last season, or last season with the season prior. So I think that's the unique part about a season, and the growing and learning part of a season as a leader, and you can take those things forward and carry them forward into next year by learning through those moments from this past season. I think you only get better from experience.
Thanks.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, 2 questions for you. First, I know this is something new that's starting this season, but if you were to get requests to talk to Leslie or Brian about head coaching interviews, is that something, how would you kind of approach that sort of thing with that starting tomorrow?
Yeah, I would welcome those opportunities for those men. They've done a phenomenal job for us here in Buffalo, and I would give them my highest recommendations. So want nothing but the best for those guys.
And then I was curious, obviously yesterday you went for the most 4th downs you have in a game. When you're making those decisions, they're quick, you don't have a lot of time to go through everything. What does that look like for you? How do you decide, what goes into that for you when you're making that decision?
Yeah, we do a lot of work leading up to game day and game time with Dennis Locke, our analytics specialist, and Mark Lubick, one of our assistant coaches, and really us three put in most of the time on it. And then during the game, I'm in contact with those two, and so we kind of back and forth at times. But obviously, the ultimate call is mine, and whether it's good or bad. And that's the job of the head coach.
Has it gotten easier to make those decisions as you've been a head coach, or is it kind of still, the same?
Well, I think we were pretty aggressive last season. And look, at the end of the day, whether you're aggressive or not, it's you only usually get a plus grade when it works out, right? So whether you're super aggressive or super conservative, it's that's just the nature of the job.
Thanks.
Sean Josh Kendall in Atlanta. When you look at Kyle Pitts and get ready for him, do any comparisons come to mind player-wise?
I'm just, Josh, with all due respect to your question, I've just started Atlanta. I've heard a lot about Kyle and his game, and of course, going through the draft process last year. How celebrated he was as a player, and if I'm not mistaken, he's from the Philadelphia area, I believe, which is where I'm from.
Yeah.
So, so I've heard a lot about him, and he looks like he's off to a great start in terms of what he's been able to do just in his first year here with coach and Matt Ryan under center there. So very impressed in a little bit of tape that I have seen.
More generically, he's the guy that they line up a lot of different places consistently. How difficult is that to prep for as you're trying to match personnel, whether it's Kyle or anybody else that gets moved around a bunch?
Yeah, I mean, they're look like they're using him in a lot of different ways, moving him around in terms of the formation and creating mismatches at times. It is a headache anytime you have a player like that you have to defend, that can move around. It is a headache for you as a coach and a coordinator.
Thanks for your time, Sean. Appreciate it.
Sure thing.
Hello, Coach Sean, the Orlando Ledbetter of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution here.
How you doing?
Doing great, Coach. Doing great. Can you discuss the importance of a first-year coach trying to build his culture and some of the successes you all had doing that up in Buffalo?
Well, I think for us, at least, I'll just speak for our situation. We Brandon and myself wanted to come in and try and establish a culture, and Terry and Kim Gula, our ownership group, gave us the green light to do that, and making sure we, got the people part of the equation as close to where we wanted it to be as possible during that first year. And those, those aren't easy decisions, and those are hard situations. And, because people's livelihoods are at stake and on the line there. So, but that was a big point of emphasis for us in that first season.
And just, since we don't get to see you since you're not in the South anymore, but then don't get to see Josh Allen either. Can you discuss or tell the folks of Atlanta what they might be in for with your fine young quarterback?
Well, we're just trying to take it one week at a time here. Each week is a new week, and Josh has a lot to work on, and as do I, and does our entire football team. So, we're just going to try and get better every week. That's really what we're about here.
Thank you, Coach.
Sure thing.
Hey, Coach, what's it going to be like to see Lee Smith back in Buffalo?
Yeah, Lee's, he's had a mark on this organization, made a mark on this organization, 2 different, stints with the Bills, and he's a very well-liked guy in our building here, and really appreciate his leadership that he gave us when I was here, and always nice to see players go on and do great things. And it seems like, just from the film that I've watched, that he's getting quite a bit of playing time, and I know he's closer to home as well down there, which is always good to hear.
Awesome. Thanks.
Sure.
That's all we have for today. Thanks, Coach.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Kate.
Hey, Coach, can you hear me okay?
Yep, I got you.
All right, great. We'll get started with questions, and John Worrell will have our first question.
Hey, Brian, John Worrell, how you doing?
Good, John. How are you?
Good. I hope you had a chance to enjoy Christmas with your family and some downtime. But
thank you. Same to you.
Well, thank you. Isaiah McKenzie, for a guy who's had an up and down type of season, what do you feel he proved or showed to maybe himself or maybe to you or maybe the rest of the NFL with the way he was able to produce and hang in there yesterday?
Well, Isaiah's been a good player for us since he's been here. I think he's improved each year. When he's had his opportunities, he's made the most of them. Thought he had a good game, obviously statistically, but did a lot of other little things. He's always ready to go. He's a good player for us. I got a lot of respect for him. You know, a young man that, look, you got to be resilient in this business, whoever you are. And he certainly showed good resiliency and a great, mental toughness when things weren't going his way. And that's really what I respect and appreciate him more than anything. Look, he's quick. He's got some good speed. He's a glue just in terms of the building of how he interacts with people. He always brings a great attitude, and you really root for guys that have to go through some things that may not be perfect. It usually is never for anybody, but big fan of Isaiah.
Right. And just what does it say to his resiliency? I mean, this is a guy who I wrote about 3 years ago. He had, he takes everything on a day-to-day basis. He's got his clothes and all his belongings stuffed in, right there in front of his locker 3 years ago, worried that he might get cut. And just the way he seems to go with the flow, I guess, and we saw that yet again here, over the past 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, it speaks a lot about his character. Again, he doesn't live in an easy world. Isn't a fishbowl, so to speak. So, whether we turn it over on a kickoff return or something, bad things are going to happen. It's not always going to be perfect. And you appreciate the people in the organization, whether it's a player or a coach that can handle things, go through tough times, because those tough times make you better in the long run. As long as you have the right approach, the good mental toughness about yourself, and an act to just keep believing in what you do, your craft, your experience, your technique. But we trust Isaiah. I certainly do, with whatever we ask him to do. And he's been nothing but a good pro.
Thanks so much, Brian.
You got it.
Hey, Dave, how are you?
Good, Dan. How are you?
Good. We talk a lot about players on the field obviously make the plays, and talk about players feeling confident. Micah Hyde always says confidence is a hell of a drug. When you're a play caller and you're starting to push the right buttons, and it just seems like you're driving, you're getting 13 play, 7-minute drives. Do you get that same level of confidence, like you're on the field, that things are just working, that you're pushing all the right buttons at the right time?
Yeah, Dan, look, you're always going to try to put them in the best position you can. And at the end of the day, I've always said this, the players got to go out there and execute, and give all the credit to the players. This is a player's game. At the end of the day, they're the ones out there that have to block and make the throws and catch. And, you try to do your due diligence throughout the week and put together a plan that you think will help those guys. And then you have to have trust. And sometimes it's not always going to go the way you see it when you're game planning on a Wednesday or Thursday night. But I think the important thing as a leader, more than anything, just not calling plays, is to show those guys how much trust you have in them, even when things aren't going great, because I think that builds confidence within the player, that, hey, look, this guy has trust in me and confidence in me. I can go play free and attack with an aggressive mindset without the fear of making a mistake. And that's what I always try to do with our guys, because they have certain qualities that we covet. They're intelligent, they're dependable, they're resilient. That's the NFL season. You better have those three qualities about yourself.
In the pregame broadcast, they talked about how Bill Belichick has so much respect for you, said that you're smart enough to coach any position group, any job. He's coached 474 games. Yesterday was the first game that nobody's ever punted against him. I know you have so much respect for him. What does it mean, his words and the performance you guys put out against one of the greatest coaches of all time?
Yeah, well, his words always mean something to me. He was the person that gave me my first opportunity in this business, and I have a tremendous amount of respect and appreciation for him and what he's done for me and my family in terms of my career. As far as the no punting thing, look, I'm glad we went out there and got a win, Dan. And you know, we tried to do the things we thought we could do. And ultimately the players went out there and executed. But, you know, the biggest thing was getting a win.
Thanks, Dave. Stay safe.
You too. Have a good one. Happy New Year.
You too.
Hey, Brian, AJ Feldman here in Rochester. How are you doing today?
Good, AJ. How are you?
Doing good. You know, the offensive line is a group that's dealt with plenty of adversity, whether it be COVID, injury, on the field performance at times. What did you see out of them yesterday that allowed them to give Josh so much time to pass, no sacks? And then what does it mean to you to have them rise up in maybe one of the biggest spots of the season?
Yeah, well, I look, it's easy to sit there and point fingers at the line. But whether it's a sack or an incompletion, or maybe it's a run that doesn't go for many yards, it's all 11 of us. It's the players, it's the coaches, it's all 11. It's not on one group. Again, I'll just use the word that I use for Isaiah is they're resilient. You know, they've had to play a fair amount of spots. I think this is a tight-knit group. Look, you have to see, you know, the game through the same set of eyes. So 5 individuals, and that's not just with our line, it's with every line, but I think they have a lot of trust and confidence in one another. They certainly believe in the things that we're doing, and they go out there each week and put forth their best effort. They're gritty, and look, it's never going to be perfect. So they understand that. I know we understand that, but I'm very proud of the way they competed and they played together. You know, Dion was kind of an emergency guy for us, and then all of a sudden we had a switch, and we're switching basically 4 spots there in the beginning part of the game, middle part of the game, and I think that's a testament to those guys as professionals. Again, it's a player-driven league, and they're the ones that have to go out there and communicate. And they've worked together in various roles, you know, throughout, again, OTAs and preseasons and all those type of things. So fortunate to have guys that have some intelligence that are able to do that and communicate and play when they need to rise up.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Yep, you got it.
Hey, Brian, Adam Benini, how are you?
Good, Adam. How are you?
Good, thank you. So a good number of us on this call, I think, have covered a lot of games at Gillette Stadium through the years, a couple of decades for me. A lot of unfavorable outcomes from a Buffalo perspective, and I know you helped administer a few of those through the years. But there was something different about yesterday, and I think a number of us reacted to it. Early on, you know, you go for it on 4th down there, 4th and 3 at the 2, and you hit Isaiah and you get on the board. And there was an aggression that I saw that I haven't seen on that type of level from this team in that environment in particular. Is that reading too much into it, or was there a mindset yesterday? Because it seemed like you guys were going to go in there and determine to kind of take that game, which is often what you have to do in Foxborough.
Yeah, well, Adam, you like to do that in every game with the mindset that you go in there and attack and be aggressive. That just doesn't mean going for it on 4th downs or whatnot. But look, during the week, we talk about it. You know, D-Lock, Dennis Lock, and Lubes and Sean, you know, they'll talk and communicate and have a plan. And, you know, we have our calls ready to go. And if Sean deems that he wants to go for it, you know, we work on it. You know, I'd say on Friday practice, talk about it on Saturday night in terms of gotta have it situations. And if the decision's made to go for it, then we're ready to go for it. But again, it's when the players are executing, which they were in that opening drive, you have confidence in them that they can go out there and perform when it matters most. And that's, you know, under pressure in critical situations.
And my follow-up to that would be, you might have addressed this to an extent in your last response, but it probably bears, I mean, I'm looking at my feed here and I'm seeing Julio Jones, I'm seeing player after player go on the COVID reserve list, right? You've obviously had to deal with that. Your depth shined in a lot of ways yesterday. I guess within the context of what you're dealing with from a COVID perspective alone, how important is that maybe to have that depth and have that culture, particularly at a time like this when in these games, so much is at stake and you have to react so quickly?
Yeah, it's a great question, Adam. I think culture and depth are critical elements to the success of a football team. You know, you're always, look, the people that we keep on our roster, and again, credit to Brandon and Joe and Sean and everyone else who's decision makers, you don't just keep them on there to keep a warm seat. You know, these guys have earned their roles as professionals and they're here for a reason. And we have confidence in the people that we have, whether they're the last man on the practice squad or the star quarterback. That's why you're here. You have a job to do. And when your number is called, we expect you to be ready. And I'm certain that those guys expect to be ready too. So, you know, the work ethic, the communication, the installations, the teaching methods, the technique work, like those are the same for the last guy on the roster as they are for the top guy. And if you're here again, if your number's called, you're expected to perform. But you also have to go, you know, it's not easy for a guy that maybe he's on the practice squad or lower on the depth chart to have some of that same sense of urgency. So those are the things that you're constantly communicating and teaching and instructing is, look, you're one play away. You can't just go through the motions of being on the show team or the scout team. You have to do a great job of mentally staying into it. Again, another form of mental toughness or resiliency, I would say, is staying into it throughout the year. So when your number's called, and look, we know that COVID can strike at any point in time, just like injuries can. So that's just an added element to, I'd say, roster building and making sure that you're developing the younger guys on your roster or the practice squad players on your roster or the backups on your roster. Just as much as you're developing Josh Allen or Stephon Diggs and working with those guys, that's part of the responsibility of a coaching staff.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Coach Dave or Mookie Hawkins, World Sports Cincinnati. How you doing today?
Hey, Mook. Good. How are you?
I'm good, Coach. What has gotten into your quarterback these past 10 quarters? He's really led this offense, and he's been doing it at an elite level. Do you feel that, you know, with the aggressive demeanor offensively, you had New England right where you want them and forcing them to?
Mook, you cut out at the end there. Mook, you cut out at the end on me.
You got me now, Coach?
I can.
Did you have New England right where you want them, you know, by forcing them to play keep up?
Well, I never think you have any team in this league right where you want them until the game's over. So it's a lot of hard work to get a lead in a game and continue to keep a lead. There's ebbs and flows through every game, just like there's ebbs and flows through every season. I think the most important thing is focus on the next play, Mook, and that's all you can control. You can't control the play that you just had, good or bad, and you can't really focus on 3 plays from now because you don't know the situation or the play call or anything like that. So taking it one play at a time, and cliche but true, and that's what we really talk about here on the offensive side of the ball is let's take it one play at a time. Let's put a bad play quickly behind us just as fast as we put a good play behind us and play the next play for 60 minutes because, you know, December, January football, usually 60-minute games. You got to be ready to go from start to finish and keep the gas pedal down, so to speak, as much as you can.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And speaking of those plays, Isaiah McKenzie performance. You know, last time, you know, Isaiah McKenzie played this way, he scored 3 touchdowns and, you know,
Miami?
he basically, in the Miami game, and he didn't touch the ball at all the remainder of the season. Has Isaiah McKenzie earned some more play designs going forward, Coach?
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. Look, we have confidence in Isaiah just as much as we have confidence in, you know, Steph and Cole and Sanders and Gabe and Knox and, you know, all the guys that we have. Look, we've tried to develop our roster to be able to use who we think we need to use when we need to use them. And certainly he's done a good job with his opportunities. So we'll see as we go forward. I know that, you know, we all have trust in Lil Man here. He's I'm just very happy for him. He's a guy that means a lot to me. He's been through a lot, and I'm very appreciative for his hard work, his determination, and his resolve.
Absolutely, Coach. We're happy to have you as well. So happy New Year and good luck this week, Coach.
Same to you, Mook.
Hi, Julianne Pelusi, Channel 2. The way that Josh was able to extend plays on Sunday, particularly late in the game, how well, I know you can't tell us this fully, but how well was he ad-libbing and how well was he able to create plays outside of the offense in these critical situations?
Well, I think that's one of his strengths. He has a lot of them. We've 4 years together. I think that he's grown a lot along with me. We have a great relationship and great trust on and off the field. And I certainly have all the trust in the world in him when he's playing the game, and I want him to play free and aggressive. And he's been doing it here for a couple of years pretty well. So he knows that, there's always things to improve, just like there is for every one of us. But certainly that's an element of his game that is a strength, and we will never take that away from him.
And just point blank, we're coming towards the end of the regular season here. I'm sorry.
I'm losing you. Sorry, it's going in and out.
I'm sorry. Can you
No, that's
hear me?
okay. Yeah, I got you. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Just point blank here. We're heading into the end of the regular season. Playoffs seem to be on the way. How much of an advantage, like if we're talking wins above replacement, like a baseball stat, how much of an advantage does Josh Allen give you as an offensive coordinator?
Well, he's our quarterback. There's not another quarterback I'd rather have than him. So, again, he just has a really even-keeled mindset. Look, does he get excited and jacked up? Absolutely. And that's part of him that makes him a good football player. But in terms of moving on to the next week and really being, watching the tape with a critical eye of things he can get better at and improve, and not getting too high or not getting too low, just, he just has such a strong competitive nature, built into him from his upbringing and what he stands for. Obviously, anytime you're working with a good quarterback, it's an advantage, but you have to play well at the same point in time. You can be good all you want in that particular game. You might not have a good game, but glad he's our quarterback. You got it.
Yes, good afternoon, Coach Dabo. Good afternoon, George Radney, Challenger Community News. Quick question for you. Two quick questions. One, how do you keep these guys sharp after a game like this where it was obvious on both sides of the ball, everybody was into the game, and it was just, you didn't have any drop off, it seemed, the entire day. How do you do that when you got Atlanta, and then you have the Jets at the end where you definitely could, concentration could wane a little bit?
Well, not if you're a professional, George. And the respect that you have for this league, I think, goes a long way. And that's something that is, I'd say, embedded in our culture and what we believe in from going all the way back to training camp to now, is you're constantly teaching that and growing that. Look, there's narratives every week. One week you're on top of the mountain, the next week you're, down in the valley. And there's ebbs and flows. And taking it 1 week at a time and teaching those guys how important it is to have that mindset, not to get too low when things aren't going great, and not to get too high when things are going, fairly well. I think that's important, to keep an even keel and having great respect for the opponent that you're playing this week, because it's such an even. The league is built for, used to be 8-8. Now it's, one more game, but one or two plays can swing a game. And regardless of the opponent that you're playing, in this case, just getting started on these guys, this is a hungry football team that is playing well. And we're going to have our work cut out for us, like we do every week, George. there's never a week where you're sitting there going, oh yeah, this is going to be an easy. You don't do that.
Right.
You have much respect for the coaches that you're competing against, the players that you're competing against, the difficulty of schemes, the situation that you're in based in, it's January football now. So I think our guys, based on, the things that I think Sean has brought to our football team, and we try to stress it, whether it's coordinator or position coach, is to be even keeled, have great respect for this game and the opponent, and take it 1 week at a time.
Okay, and last but not least, on situational football, it seems like, because now, as you mentioned, it's January, and your home field is Highmark Stadium, which is a major wind tunnel out there. So would it be a situation to dictate going for it on fourth downs, or doing things of that nature if if it seems fit? You prepare for that?
Yeah, that's something that, again, is addressed on a week-to-week basis. There's great detail and thought put into that. And again, I'll just mention Dennis Locke and Mark Lubick and Sean, and those guys are, always communicating about that. And then toward the end of the week, we'll have our conversation of, here are the areas that we might want to go for it or not go for it. And those are, based on strategy of the team you're playing, or maybe it's conditions, George. So those change on a week-to-week basis.
All right, Coach. Thanks a lot. Good luck this coming
Appreciate
weekend.
you.
Excellent calling yesterday, man. You
Thank
had
you.
all
Happy
you
New
had
Year.
the deck. You too. Take care.
You too, guys. Happy New Year to everybody.
Thanks, Coach.
Kaylee,
Hey, Leslie, can you hear me okay?
I can.
All right, great. We will get started with questions. Please raise your hand if you have a question. First question will be from Mookie.
Coach Frazier, Mookie Hawkins, Waffle Sports 1080. How you doing?
Okay, I hope you had a good Christmas, man. I'm doing good.
Yeah, I had a great Christmas, Coach, especially when your defense can force New England to go 1 for 10 on third down. I know you love that one as well. Just care to talk about how your defense played aggressive yesterday.
Yeah, they really did a good job in a lot of ways, helping to force that quarterback to make some throws. I mean, we weren't always perfect in the run game, but we were able to find ways to get them into some third and longs and be able to find ways to not let them have success on third down, which gave our offense more opportunity. So it was really good in that way. Not giving up the long 64-yard run, that was a good thing, but our guys played hard, came away with some big takeaways, and just was really good to see.
Yeah, it was really good to see that they was really on it with that sweep. I mean, they tried to get y'all, even try to throw the sweep on the weak side, but your guys was there to, they was in their gap and doing an awesome job. So that's a good testament to the game plan you displayed out there. But Coach, what is necessary? What do you think is necessary for you guys to continue to be in this driver's seat to remain in 2 games?
Well, Mookie, it's just a matter of coming to work every day, just working as hard as you can and preparing the right way. We talked about this a little bit on the plane with some of our players coming back last night, just making sure we come back in on Wednesday when the guys are back in the building with that mindset that, we're not going to have a letdown after a very emotional game on the road against a divisional rival. So that's what it comes back to, just making sure we have the right mindset and really approaching this thing the right way. There's so much at stake in each one of these remaining games in our regular season that we got to be on point in our preparation. And I think our guys will be.
Absolutely. And, speaking of that, you got a guy like Cordell Patterson. He's a do-it-all guy, a receiver that's playing running back. So, I know you probably haven't seen too much film on Cordell in Atlanta just yet, but what do you take from a guy of Cordell Patterson magnitude?
No CP well, drafted him in Minnesota, good player. He's bounced around a little bit here in his career, but like you said, he's a versatile guy. At one point was one of the top returners, kickoff return guys in our league. And I'm sure he's still capable of doing that, but they're using him more as a running back / receiver now. And he's having a good season. He's become really the go-to guy along with Kyle Pitts in their offense. And really happy for him. He's doing a great job for them.
No doubt, Coach. Have a great week of practice and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Same to you.
Hi, Leslie. You guys have a really good problem in that you have really strong depth on both sides of the ball. You see a game like Isaiah had, whenever AJ Klein's gotten into the game, it seems like he makes his mark somehow. I mean, that play that he made to tip that pass, you can see it on the replay. It's almost like he recognized that Saran was going to get targeted on the play, kind of shifted over there and made a play. Is there ever a point where you're like sitting back, maybe talking in the locker room, like, man, I'd like to see more of AJ Klein. We just can't get him out there now.
No, anytime AJ's had a chance to play, Matt, you're right. He's really come up big for us. And that was a huge play yesterday for us when he got that tip ball and Micah ends up coming away with the pick. But he's done that for us. Even going back to last season when he had to step in when Matt was injured and coming up with big plays in the Seattle game, the Chargers game. He's done some good things for us. So we know if we lose someone at the linebacker position for any reason, we have a capable backup in AJ. He can play all 3 positions, and that's a luxury in itself to have a guy in that role. So we're fortunate to have him on our team.
I know you're focused on this year, and you probably don't want to talk too much about it, but I am curious, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, is there any reservations about going back into a head coach interview, knowing, maybe the disappointment that you had last time, or is it something where you approach each opportunity with, a brand new kind of clean slate?
Yeah, I think, Matt, you have to move on and really focus on the now. And so if an opportunity were to present itself, then you would, you want to assess it and
and just make a good decision. But you really don't want things that have happened in the past to hold you back from the future. You really got to move forward, and you just want to assess each situation. But for me, as you mentioned, the focus is on what we got to get done here in this ball game against Atlanta, which is huge for what we're trying to get accomplished as a team.
Thanks, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Yes, good afternoon, Coach Frazier. George Radney, Challenger Community News. How you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well, George. How are you?
Pretty good. And I'm just wondering what has happened since the second half of the Tampa Bay game. It seems like the defense has become much more aggressive and going after the offense. They really you can just see it even on TV. You're looking like, wow, the guys are coming off the ball. What do you think happened? What happened in that locker room at halftime of that Tampa game that seemed to get these guys going in the right direction?
Yeah, you know, I think it was always there. Just for whatever reason, we hit a bump in the road, but the guys are really playing hard. They're doing a really good job of preparing for each opponent, and we'll need that again this week. You know, that great preparation leading up to the ball game, and then going out on the field on that Sunday and really playing at a high level. But I think that fire has always been there. As I mentioned, just in our league, sometimes there are some bumps in the road, and you just got to be able to get through those and get to the other side.
Yeah, do you think the defense yesterday forced their will on the Patriots? That's the first time I've seen in a long time Trent Brown and Isaiah Wynn, two of the linemen, really get off their game, and they were trying to go into the defensive huddle at times to talk to people. So you usually don't see a Belichick team that it seemed like they understood the importance of the game.
Yeah, it's such a competitive game every time you line up. I mean, the emotions are high. Guys want to win, they want to succeed, and it's just the way it is out there. You know, you're battling, you're fighting, scratching and clawing every single play to try to win that play. And sometimes your emotions can get the best of you. You try your best to contain those, but it's such a competitive business. It's tough at times.
And last but not least, Tremaine Edmonds, what would you say of his play yesterday?
Yeah, Tremaine did a really good job for us. Speaking of physicality, he had some physical tackles yesterday, boy. I mean, really, really proud of the way he stepped up and used his hands, got off of blocks, and was physical in his tackling, was really good in his coverage throughout the day. So just a good job by Tremaine all the way around.
Great, thank you very much. I think Trent Brown was looking for him too, but hey, it was a good game. He was outstanding out there yesterday. Thank you very much, and good luck this coming Sunday.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Leslie. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. In yesterday's game, what challenges presented themselves with defensive line coach Eric Washington out with COVID, and how did you prepare for that unique situation?
Yeah, without a doubt, it was a challenge without Eric. He's been such a big part of our defense over the last 2 seasons, and to not have him, I called him early in the day of the ball game, and even the night before, just telling him just his presence on the airplane, his presence in the hotel, just missing him, and having some of those conversations that we would have during the course of the day. And then as I was sitting in the locker room, and I'm so used to my locker not being very far from his, just being able to dialogue with him prior to the game, and he wasn't there, so it was weird. But kudos to Jock. Jock did a great job of being an understudy of Eric, and then having to step in and fill those shoes, which are big shoes. But he did a really good job, and the guys responded to his coaching and his leadership, which is really, really good to see. And hopefully we'll get Eric back soon. But Jock did a terrific job yesterday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, it's Kim Jones. How are you?
Good to see you, Kim. Doing good.
It's great to see you. In observing your defense over these past few years, I note obviously the very strong leadership, perhaps most notably from those safeties, and obviously the great Tre'Davious White, who you don't have now. But I've always thought of your defense as being very proud. And I just wonder, I know the result matters most and you love the result, but how much did they need that performance in your mind against a Patriots team, odds seemingly stacked against you guys, most notably because it was a road game and you really needed to get it? How much did they need that, in your opinion?
You're right. They are a prideful group, and that has a lot to do with the success they've had over the years. They take a lot of pride in their work. But I think it was as much about a divisional opponent on the road. Yes, there's some added flavor because of who that opponent is, but I really believe no matter who it was at this stage of our season, the guys were really focused on going out and getting a win. And obviously, what we had experienced a few weeks ago when we played New England, that comes into play as well when it comes to the pride factor. And guys wanted to go out and show that, hey, we can get this done. And they did a terrific job throughout the ball game.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, it's Jay with the Buffalo News. Just wanted to ask you, it was kind of a weird statistical game. I think you mentioned last week that, you usually plan on other teams having like 10 possessions. They only had 8. And their first 2 in the second half were pretty extended. They reached the end zone. And then, obviously you got the interception late. What did you see in the second half that was hurting you guys defensively, did you think?
Jay, on a couple of those drives, they were able to get some explosives, one through a penalty. And in that first drive, come out of the half, they had an explosive run. And that's to their favor. It's hard for them when they don't get explosives, whether it be in a passing game or run game, and we allowed that to happen. And that really gave them some momentum. And that was probably the difference in those 2 drives, just the explosive plays.
Okay. And I want to ask you about snap counts for a couple of guys. F.A. Obata was second only to Ed yesterday on the D-line. What's that say about, the trust that you guys have in him and maybe what he's shown you to get that much playing time?
Yeah, some of it's circumstantial, but also the fact that F.A., just like you mentioned, alluded to, he's done some things to gain our confidence. He's really done a really good job when he's gotten out there and gotten his opportunities. And it really has shown us as coaches, we need to give him more opportunities. So he's come up with some splash plays for us that we've been lacking at times. And so we wanted to give him more opportunities just to see what he was able to do. And he did a good job for us yesterday. When he had his one-on-ones, he was able to hurt the quarterback and get around the quarterback is what we needed. And so he's earned that right to get more snaps, and we look forward to seeing how he progresses.
Thanks. And then the last guy was Saran. He had maybe 12 snaps, something like that. Was that related to anything with Dane in terms of an injury, or was it you guys wanting to maybe take a look at Saran with the starting defense?
Yeah, I don't think I'm giving away any secrets here. It was just personnel driven. It was just they went with one personnel group. We went with a different personnel group just to match what they were doing. And that was something we did for that game. And I don't know if we do it again in the future, but that's all it was, just matching personnel.
Gotcha. All right. Thanks, Leslie. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, good to see you. I was wondering about Eli Anku. I know he's someone who hasn't had a ton of snaps in games, but could you tell us some things maybe you see behind the scenes, whether at practice with the guys or his personality of what he brings to this team?
Yeah, Kat, I think one of the pluses for us as a staff is the fact that, he has some skin on the wall. He's played the games. He's been in situations similar to the ones that we're in now, battling and fighting and trying to help a team get into the playoffs. And that helps. And then when he's on the field, because of his experience, he's able to make some things happen for us. He gave us great push in the middle yesterday, which we needed from our inside guys to try to get the quarterback off the spot. And he's done that when he's had a chance to play for us, even in the New Orleans game, the Tampa game, being able to get a push up the middle because he's such a strong, forceful guy. But also his preparation and his maturity is what gives us confidence. He's a guy who does a great job in preparing for each opponent. And he's a very mature player because of his experience. And, he's a kind of a quiet leader just by his example, the way he prepares, the way he practices. And then he goes out and plays extremely hard for us in the run game, which is, where we needed some help at. So he's really been good for us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, John Worrell. How you doing?
Hey, John. Hey, John.
Good. Just it's a bit of a strange question, but it's about Isaiah McKenzie. And he talked about I spoke to him, and he talked about what he provides the defense in looks when he's working with the scout team. And from what you've seen, from his work in the scout team, were you surprised at what he was capable of doing, yesterday on the field?
Man, that's a good question because we're always teasing him, John. It gives us such a good look when he's playing scout team receiving. Usually he's the slot receiver at time, most of the time, if they have a good slot, if they have a good number one receiver outside, he's that guy as well. We've even had him to mirror these option style quarterbacks or zone read style quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson and others. And he's done a terrific job in that as well. So he always gives us a great look at whatever position we put him in. And so to answer your question, no, I was not surprised by the results we got yesterday when he was targeted. He does it in practice. He gives us great looks, and you can see that he's capable. So I'm really happy for him that he got those opportunities and he was able to come through for our team. Did a terrific job.
And Brian Dable always talks about how special he is to him. Just what do you make of a player? And as a defensive back, this. It's like you have one bad play and you can get down and people get benched. But what do you say about that mentality that Isaiah brings? That 3 weeks ago he was benched, and suddenly you see him coming up in a big game to do what he's capable of doing after the ups and downs he's had. What does that say to him about as a person, as a player?
Well, it definitely speaks to his mental toughness. I don't know if you remember, John, we were playing the Jets, I think in 2019, the last game of the season. And we were holding out our starters, or most of our starters in the secondary, and we got depleted. And we turned to Isaiah and put him in the game at corner. And he didn't blink, man. He went out there and played for us. We were coaching him from the sideline. John Butler was yelling at him, hey, do this, do that. And it just goes to show you the type of player he is and the type of mentality he has. And mentally tough guy who doesn't get shaken. And I know it wasn't easy for him when he was taken out of the lineup and wasn't able to dress, but he used that as a positive to motivate him to come back and do what he did yesterday. And that says a lot about his character and a lot about him as a person.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Leslie. That's all we have for today.
All right. Thank you, Cal.
I was laughing when Mookie was asking that. I was